Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to Apostolic Children's Ministry Podcast. I am so excited because my good friend, Brother Bob Lee, is on the podcast. Why don't you say hi to everybody, Brother Bob?
Hello, everyone. Glad to be back.
And I'm hoping this is not a rare, isolated occasion. I'm hoping that you can make this a regular thing, Brother Lee. So you have some life changes, and so you're a bit more available, which is super exciting for us.
Yeah, when you get fired from your job for the 20th time. Well, I mean, not that I got fired. I retired.
He fired his job.
But if you get fired or you retire, yes, so I did.
You retaliated.
Yesterday.
You fired your job because they fired you in the past.
Yes. So yesterday was my last day on site. But at work, and so I'm excited. So I've got no earth-shattering plans, but I got a few little things, trips, little planned, and some different things. I'm going to go to. I just mentioned to you, I'm going to go down and see Brother Farfan down at his work in Ensenada. So we got a tentative date in a couple weeks, and to do some teaching down there, and so I'm excited. We'll see what happens. So I should have a lot more time available.
Selfishly, I'm super glad because we get more access to Brother Lee, and before at your job, you just life takes its toll, but we're going to try to make it for last time as much as we can. We got some other exciting news. We're trying to be very consistent with this. Now, I know in the past we've said stuff like this, but no, this is different. I don't know how, but it is. But we are trying to launch apostolic content for kids. And yes, for teachers as well, but for kids, because there is just not enough apostolic content out there, Brother Lee, for children. And, as much as you would love, hey, kids, go out, play outside for the rest of your life, don't look at tablets and phones. I don't think that's, the state of our society is a lot of kids, they watch content.
Yeah, you mentioned that. So my wife and I went out for dinner last night. To, I guess, kind of celebrate. We just went out and grabbed a bite to eat, and we're sitting in the restaurant, and I was looking at in the booth, the people next to us. The girl had to have been probably not much more than 4, and she had a little brother, probably 2, 3. They both had phones, and they were watching something during their mealtime, and I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I'm not judging or anything like that, but I mean, our kids do the same thing. But I was like, wow. I go, how old do you think that those kids are? And they're probably 2, 3, 4 years old, and they each had a phone and looking at stuff.
Yeah, and it's a balancing act. You definitely don't want to feed overindulgence on screens, and that's the last thing we want to do. And we're definitely not ever giving in to Hollywood and television and all that junk. That's hopefully goes without saying. But we do know that there's a need for apostolic content. And so during COVID, we, of course, produced a lot of online Sunday school and online videos and the daily devotions and all those things. And there's a lot of kids that are still watching those same videos from years ago. And our goal now is to generate new apostolic, doctrinally sound content for our kids. They shouldn't have to go watch Blippi, or I don't even know who the other little kid people are. They should be watching apostolic content. And so we're going to try to make short form stuff. It's not all going to be like the hour like we used to put out for our Sunday school. It might be 15, 20 minutes, but we're going to try to do that once a month. We're meeting with our whole team. This next one, we're meeting on July 5th, the day after Independence Day. We're getting together with 2 groups, and we're going to each record a video that we can put out on 2 different weeks. I would imagine, mid-month and then the end of the month. And then I personally am going to be putting out 1 per month. And I think this is the rough format at this point, is I'm going to be making a skit on Bible stories with a puppet. So I did this one time during the daily devotion during quarantine where I had Mr. Quackers, the crazy duck. And me and him had a whole conversation. Well, I was the duck and I was me at the same time. I was both pieces, and I had to dub it, record it 2 different times. And it was fun, but it was work. But I want to do more of that. So I want to get with Super Freddy, Mr. Quackers, and I want to tell Bible stories that only Super Freddy and Mr. Quackers can tell. I'm inspired definitely by Brother Pelletier and Giraffe and all that. So I want to do that again. I already have a bunch of them written up, and I probably am going to just go ahead in the curriculum and hit all those Bible stories, because maybe you can use those for your curriculum as well. So I'm starting that in the fourth quarter, all the Bible stories that we're writing for the fourth quarter. I'm going to try to do one a month at least, plus our 2 from our team. And then Brother Danny said he's putting out one as well. And so minimum of 2 per month. Oh, sorry, minimum of 1 per month. Guaranteed minimum of 1. Or up to 1 per week. That's in a perfect world when things are going to plan, which we all know, sometimes doesn't last a lot. But we are going to try to hold our feet to the fire and at least do 1 a month, every single month for our kids.
Well, that's exciting. And now in this new chapter of my life, I'm hoping to have more time. And we had the SCC conference recently. And I talked about the teachers meeting we had, something Brother Gabe Baker had brought up that reminded me of some things. So I'm excited. My mind was refreshed. I got a couple object lessons and things that I'm kind of working on, and maybe we'll videotape those, share those, and talk about them. So absolutely
exciting stuff coming up. Reminder that we are part of the Apostolic Podcast Network. There's a lot of apostolic content out there. Not necessarily for kids, but for adults anyway, for the different podcasts. So you can go to apostolicsundaySchool.com/APN, and you can see all of those. I think it's Linktree /Apostolic Podcast Network as well, I think. But you can see all the other podcasts. But for now, let's get started, Brother Lee.
Well, boy, I think it's time for a dad joke.
I hope you're a better audience than my daughter, because every time I tell her a joke, she just groans, rolls her eyes, or something. So I got a joke for you. Are you ready for this?
I am ready.
Okay, I've started a speed reading course. Are you proud of me?
Oh, that's awesome.
Thank you. Well, last night I read Great Expectation in 15 seconds. I really did.
Incredible.
Yeah, thank you. I know it's only 2 words, but I'm just a beginner. I'm just starting this thing. Pretty soon, I'll be able to read it even faster.
Yeah. Okay. Are we still recording?
Yeah, we're still recording.
Okay, so...
Hey, we actually got a real laugh. This is a big deal.
I did, but you know what?
Tristan, this is how it's done.
I got to tell you, though. So So full transparency, I saw the joke ahead of time. So anyway, but I just thought of it. I go, you know what? Great. I'm not much of a reader. I'm not a reader. Again, English was my second language. Science was my first language. But anyway, Great Expectation was actually the first novel I ever read. And so when I saw that, I go, oh, that's cool. And then I read the joke and I started laughing. But it actually was the first real novel.
How long did it take you?
I let's not go there.
15 seconds?
But I love that book. So if you haven't read it, I'm sure probably most people have. I thought it was a great book. But anyway, when I saw it, I thought it was funny. But it was a great book. So anyway.
On to the next.
Okay.
Everybody knows that everything's perfect every Sunday in every Sunday school across the nation, especially here.
Yes,
I mean, nothing has ever... You know what? I just hope lightning doesn't strike right now until I have a time to clear this up.
Us together, we never mind. Have we done that for a story on just bloopers that you and I alone have?
I think we have
a part of.
I think we have. Well, this part of the podcast is where we tell the stuff that didn't go right this last week, and we have yet to have a week that didn't have one.
Yes.
So this last Sunday wasn't bad.
Yep.
You do have those calamitous Sundays that you just like scare your kids by telling them about, but this wasn't one of them. But we were doing the superheroes curriculum, superheroes of the faith. This is about Daniel in the lion's den, and there's a running deal throughout that lesson, and I don't even know who wrote this, but it's just a weird, funny, quirky part of the lesson where you're not allowed to say the word lion. And so the kids have to play 20 questions to even figure out which word you're not supposed to say. It's a really funny deal. Well, in the girls' class, and this obviously I'm not in there, but the girls 10 to 11 class, they said everything was going good. Sarah Torado was teaching the lesson, and she completely unconsciously said the word lion. And when she did, her girls, they had been waiting. They pounced and just let her have it. Oh, you said the word lion. And so apparently there's a punishment. We didn't really do it in our class as much. You have to spin around in circles or jump up and down or whatever. And they refused to let her continue until she'd done it. And by the time it was done, she was so dizzy that she couldn't remember the Bible story.
Yeah, okay.
So pretty funny. And then in our super class, Sister Leia was, I can't remember what part of the lesson we were on, but we were talking. I was trying to get the kids to do something. And finally she jumps up and says, hey, okay, if whoever does this or whatever it was, I'll give you a snack at the end of class. I can't remember what it was, like whoever sings this song or whatever. And she said, oh, and this also goes for the new thing. Have you heard what we're doing at the end of class to keep the kids tied to the altar call? Is if they go out
the back door, then they miss out or something?
Yeah, so that they go out the curtain, they don't get a snack. Yeah. But if they go out at the right time through the right door, they get a snack. Yep. Well, she also mentioned that. She said, oh, and by the way, the same thing applies for that exit. The problem is she hadn't checked before saying all that if we even had snacks. And so she says that kids are all, so whatever it was, they did it. And so she owed a bunch of them a snack. Then she went to go check, and we had nothing. I mean, by this time it's 10:20 something, and we have another 30 minutes. So I see her grab her purse and run out the door, and I'm like, Sister Leia, everything okay? She's like, no, it's not okay. She had to run to Walmart. So she did a quick run because she spoke a little too early. But I'm glad she both spoke up and made sure we had it.
That's good.
Those kids will never let you live it up if you promise something you can't deliver. Do you have something? You did in yours.
Yeah, so so I'm in the 10 to 11-year-old boys. And when you got 10 to 11-year-old boys and about 15 of them in a small room, I mean, obviously nothing can go wrong.
Absolutely.
So the game was, and I had the game this last week, and it was to put a garbage can in the middle of the room, and I split the kids up. Half were lions and half were Daniels, and the object was the lions were to throw and push the kids that were Daniels and make them touch, or everybody, or I don't know how it worked. Everybody's supposed to try to push everybody else into the garbage can and touch the garbage can. So trying to be proactive, I thought, you know what? I get real nervous about. I've always done it whenever we've had pool parties and people start throwing people in. I always get worried about somebody getting hurt. I really don't want anybody to get hurt. So I don't know what I got to think about that. So anyway, so I thought, you know what? I want to do something different. So I put on a piece of paper, lion, Daniel, and as the kids were coming out of the classroom, they were randomly just going to be either one or the other. I said, don't tell anybody what you're going to be. Then I put them in the Foursquare area out in our playground. I thought, okay, once you know you're a lion, you know you're Daniel, the object is for so it kind of did a reverse thing. The lions were to pull the kids out, but your job is to stay in there and stay in the center of God or whatever. So I don't know what I said, something like that. So I thought, okay, that's gonna be good. So I said, don't hurt. I made sure everybody said, don't hurt anybody. So I thought, okay, we're gonna get through this. I thought it'd be safer than in the classroom trying to push kids into a garbage can. So it actually went through pretty good. One kid.
So now they're on concrete instead of carpet.
Concrete, yeah, pulling each other. So I'm like, oh, okay. And as I'm watching him, I think I videotaped. I showed it. One kid hit the ground, and I'm like, oh no, his pants. He was wearing a nice pair of pants, but he got up. He kind of dusted them off, and there was no blood coming through his knee, and the pants weren't torn. And that was the worst thing that happened. So it was a potential blooper, but it ended up being okay. So everybody seemed like they
sounds
had fun.
like a win to me.
So it came out okay.
Yeah, I think we got that in the wrong segment.
Dawson hit the ground hard, but he jumped up and was okay.
You know what? 10, 11-year-old boys are made mostly of rubber, as far as I can tell.
Up good, so.
They're almost impossible to hurt.
So we got through this one okay.
Now, I like how you mentioned that you have a phobia of kids getting hurt, but yet you don't have nearly that same regard for the building you're in.
Yeah.
You're fine blowing the ceiling off.
But well, you know what's fun? Oh, you know, it reminded me. Something happened in school recently. They set off the fire alarm. They did something. I can't remember what.
They cooked popcorn.
Was the bird pop? Yeah, it was.
I was in the middle of it.
She was cooking my granddaughter's popcorn, and I just thought it was so funny because when I substituted for my wife one day several years ago, I was doing the Dust of Doom experiment, I think it was, and I set the alarm off, and I didn't realize I did, but I kind of thought I did. And then Sister Pierce comes running out. Okay, everybody go out the lawn. I go, Sister Pierce, I think I did. No, you didn't. What? And she did. She had no idea what I did. I go, yeah, I think I set this off. And they called luckily the trucks didn't roll. And we got out of it. We're like, oh, okay. So anyway.
Yeah, we caught the trucks
Then I come
well.
home. Norma goes, how did the class go? Oh, it was okay. There's nothing happened, exciting. And okay. And then she later found out that I set the alarm off. That didn't go very well. I won't mention that blooper that happened to me. So, anyway.
The only other goofy thing that happened in Sunday school was in the super class when Danny and Ruben introduced that can't say the word lion thing. The kids thought it was a challenge. Oh, how many times can we say the word lion in the next 30 seconds? Apparently, that's how they viewed it. They wouldn't stop. And it was like absolute chaos trying to tell them, no, we're serious. Stop saying anything, let alone the word lion. And then when we finally got them calmed down, Bree's telling the Bible story. And, per the curriculum, she's using the word feline and all this stuff instead. Well, every time the kids heard feline, they thought she was saying feline. And so they didn't know what that was. And so they're like, oh, you said it, you have to do exercise or whatever. And she's like, oh, I'm not saying that word. It was actually pretty funny. And that's our bloopers. Hey, you know what? If that's the worst thing that happens, we're in good shape.
Yeah,
that's
good.
We've had worse.
Yes, we have.
So in Sunday school, we want to celebrate. We're not celebrating the bad, but we want to own it. We don't want to try to pretend that we're aloof or above problems, but we also want to celebrate the wins because there are good things that happen, and it's a positive thing that you want to celebrate. Nobody wants to hear all bad news. Well, I guess that. Who am I kidding? I mean, look at our newspapers. That's all they ever publish. But nobody wants to hear all bad news in Sunday school. So there's some wins, and the first thing is that from the Children's Ministry Conference, Brother Hodge, if you've not seen him do the Best of Children's Ministry Songs session, you just owe it to yourself. He is such a natural. His way with it, just his casual, fun self. I'm telling you, if I'm jealous of anybody's superpower, it's Brother Hodge's ability to do action songs. Awesome. It's so good. Anyway, we did 2 of his songs back to back because we actually had a little bit of extra time. So we did both Unashamed and No Fear, and they rocked the house. I mean, the kids absolutely loved them. If you've never heard them, they're just phenomenal. The No Fear is no fear, no fear, and then you shake your hands over your head. It's so good. And then we tried something else. I did the final lesson this time, and we sometimes fall into a trap, even in the curriculum writing, where we feel like we have to end every lesson the same. We have to end it in a slow, serious, slower song. If they're not crying, they're not praying, sort of thing. And I don't mean that bad in any way, because it's a very positive way to end it most of the time. But I just made up my mind this Sunday that this time I'm going to use a more upbeat ending. It doesn't say it in the curriculum. I'm just like, what? I just want to do something jamming, like a praise break style. Not praise break, but just an upbeat song for the altar call. And then lead into it that way and just see what happens. And Brother Lee, it was so cool. It really was. It was a neat altar call. Not that I'm opposed to the other type at all. I mean, they're very effective. But these kids were really, really praying, and it was just a different feel in a very good way. The kids were praying just as hard and for just as long, but it's just an interesting, different way to get there. So I think we're going to go in the curriculum and maybe every now and then give them 2 options. Maybe an upbeat altar call song and a slower one, because at the end of every lesson there is a song that we pick. Of course, people can do what they want anyway. But and then Sunday night, this is the ultimate win. There was a young boy in our church, and his mom has been coming for a little bit now, a year or 2. But they're still newish, and the boys are really doing so much better. They're really coming along.
The transformation from the first. Oh, they were a handful. They're boys. So walking in today to do the podcast here, I ran into Sister Liz and her kids, and the little one's got this. He skinned his nose out doing something. I go, hey, how's your nose? And she's always doing better. I go, he's a boy. Well, these boys, they're boys, and man, they took a lot of energy to just to keep them sitting down.
Yeah, I mean, they're still. I mean, they're not angels, but they're still all boy. But the oldest one got the Holy Ghost Sunday night. Brother Lee, seeing that boy praying crying his eyes out. Just this is in the main church before preaching ever started. It was during song service. Yeah. He's lifting his hands, praying, and I was so honored to be able to pray with him and pray him through to the Holy Ghost. It's just so exciting.
It is
so exciting. And then after, having that conversation, the post Holy Ghost interview, did you hear yourself speak in tongues in a language that you don't know? Yes. What does that mean? That I got the Holy Ghost. So you're claiming, you got the Holy Ghost. Yes, I know I got it was so cool. Just all that teaching that you pour into him every Sunday. He knew without question what had happened.
That's awesome.
It was so cool.
Yeah, like you said, the transition to that family has just been incredible. Really.
So that's the wins for Sunday. So this is fun for me because we're doing this segment every podcast, or most anyway, about something I learned about children's ministry from fishing. And this particular one was, well, before we get into that particular one, you were there. Me and you were the ones that came up with all these lessons.
Yeah. You have to remind me. I have to see that list again.
Oh, I'll show it to you. I have it right here.
Yeah, because I know we just sat there just rattled them off one after another things as we were sitting there. Everybody else was sleeping, I guess. I don't know where we're going.
We're on the way back. We're on the way back. Yeah. So it was in the afternoon. I think everybody was just, they'd been a long day. They're just kind of crashed out. And we were sitting at that table in the galley coming up with all these things. Yep. And there was a bunch of them. This particular one is, I've just put a title on most of these. This is called Prep Matters. Yeah. And it matters a lot. And we can't talk about that trip without talking about Brother Tapp. Yeah. Brother Tapp. And I'm not, I don't want to mention this every time we do this segment, but it's impossible not to. Yeah. Brother Tapp was one of the greatest men I knew. And he was a fisherman's fisherman. He was just, it was everything. He had more equipment than anybody I know. And he has since passed away. And, man, I miss him really. Yeah. I really do.
He's one of those guys that just solid, never a negative thing to say, nothing. You couldn't get anything negative out of him. Not that I was trying to, but just always positive, upbeat, and just a great guy to have around. He was, very faithful. All of the gatherings we'd have, he was always there. He'd have his chair there, either your house or my house if we had him there. There's a spot for him. Have to retire. Speaking of retirement, I have to retire that chair that he used to always sit in. He had a spot at your house too, right?
He did.
So anyway, great man.
What's interesting is you said he had never had anything negative to say. I don't know that anybody had anything negative to say about him, which is the ultimate rarity. Yeah. Everybody has their critics except him, as far as I knew. If someone thought it, they probably just weren't brave enough to say it because he was that good a guy. Just what a neat man. Anyway, all that said, he was a fisherman's fisherman. And before we ever stepped on that boat, I made it clear to him that, yes, I had gone fishing, but it's mostly freshwater stuff. I don't know much about saltwater. I don't have the right equipment. I don't really know what I'm doing. And I wasn't saying that so he'd feel sorry for me. I just wanted, because he had asked. And so I told him. So before we sat on that boat, he went into full fisherman prep mode. It was like a military operation with him. He went through every one of his poles. In fact, he gave me several poles. He spooled them up. He got the braid backing and the right leader. He had to make sure the pound test was exactly right to match the fish. He had he checked the weather forecast ahead of time. I never even thought of this stuff. Got into the weather forecast. He called the fishing charter. What fish are biting right now? What is the best type of line to have? What size sinkers do you guys recommend? How deep are we going? Do we need the 16-ounce sinkers or smaller ones? What hooks are best? Everything. What he asked me what kind of seasickness medication I'm bringing. I was like, I didn't really think about that. He said, well, this is the stuff you need. We'll order it ahead of time. You'll have it. He bought it. I didn't even. It was like my nurse too. Yeah. And he took very good care of me. He told me exactly what to pack as far as clothes. It's going to be chilly in the morning. It's going to warm up, so you need to have layers. He just went through the whole thing, down to my shoes. Literally, these are the shoes you need to wear. And so by that time, I showed up, and I was ready. Not because I was ready, but because he was. Yeah. And then there was other people that just, you could tell. It was like that morning they woke up and thought about the trip, and that was the only time they had considered it. Probably grabbed the first pole that was laying around. I don't think you even brought a jacket.
I didn't, but I think he took care of me too. So I don't have, again, I got small little trout poles and stuff for freshwater. But yeah, he hooked me up in more ways than one. So he took care of me. I used one of his poles, and he took care of everything and stuff. So yeah, he's.
But if I remember right, you were freezing that morning.
Yeah.
I think you forgot a jacket.
Yeah.
Well, I would have, except that he said, "Don't forget your jacket," and he even rode with me. Like I rode in his car, and he made sure before we even left the house that I had everything. Some others, you could tell. They were just hoping that everything would just magically happen right. But because of that prep, we did really well on that trip.
Yeah.
And there were some others that didn't do so well. And I learned from that trip, we learned sitting at that table, that preparation is everything. Yeah. Not just in fishing, but of course with Sunday school. It's not optional. It's a difference between getting through a Sunday and actually having a really good, focused Sunday school classroom.
Yeah, exactly. And that, and just thinking about things. I think I briefly mentioned the SEC conference and just ideas sparking things. So I've got lessons I've been preparing for weeks now, and I haven't tried them out yet, but I'll try them out on you. But I'm just thinking, my mind's just always trying to go think about something. So
I love it. If you're getting ready on a Saturday night, what you're doing on that next Sunday morning, that's not a good look. And the kids can tell, and your fellow teachers can tell. We tell our teachers a good rule of thumb is to start Sunday afternoon preparing for the next Sunday. It doesn't mean you necessarily get it all figured out before Sunday night service, but at least you get the thought process rolling. What's happening next week. And there's something that Brother Wang used to talk about called the red car effect.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And if you keep that thought in your mind, that next week I'm talking about, Daniel and Daniel in the lion's den. If that's in your mind constantly all week long, every verse you read, every Bible story you hear, every casual reference, everything's going to lend itself to the topic that's on your mind, and you'll have more things to talk about than you have time to tell it.
Well, it's like I'm going to butcher it, but the scripture, always be ready for a word or
ready to give an answer to every man that asketh the reason of the hope that is in you with meekness.
There you go. I knew you'd know it.
Bible quizzing.
But this, just thinking about it is you just never know when something not necessarily. Obviously, we're talking about getting ready for your Sunday school and be prepared or whatever. But we need to be prepared all the time. We never know who we're going to run into in life situations and whatever, and being prepared, just always trying to be prepared.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I was thinking specifically for Sunday school, but and everything. You got to be ready always.
And I kick myself. There are times, so I chaperone the school kids. My granddaughter went to the LA County Fair, and I got one thing that I got to do better is when I feel that nudge to do something, to go pray for somebody or something, is just do it and just not. I don't know, whatever. Because there was an incident that happened during the LA County Fair. A woman, she fell down or something happened. They ended up calling like the EMTs or whatever to help her out. And they put her on a cart and they took her out. But she had like a couple little grandkids or something, I think it was, just looking at the age of the kids. And they were crying. And I didn't do it. I just sat there and watched. I was praying underneath my breath. But I kept saying, I should have gone over there and said, hey, I got a minister's license. You're like, I'm just praying for you. And just to see, just be not to, I don't know what kind of, what their lives were like or whatever, but I thought I should have said something, and I didn't. I'm kicking myself for it. So I got to do more. And I guess I just wasn't
it's easy to hear you say that and think, Brother Lee, I've been in that spot and I've not done stuff. And if we're all honest, we've all been in that spot and not done what we felt. I don't remember who said it. It's probably my dad or brother, but they said, if you're wondering if God's telling you to speak to somebody, just know the devil's probably not the one nudging you.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, probably not him saying, go talk.
Over that hump. Or something.
The devil's probably not telling you to go witness to that person. So it's pretty safe to follow the nudge. Even if it's you, that's a pretty good you moment. We blame our flesh for a lot, but hey, that's a good thing to do.
Yeah.
So There's a stat on apostolicsundaySchool.com, and you from the dashboard, the backside, I can see when it's the most busy. And we say this a lot. It's just a funny stat. 9 p.m. Saturday night, it was most busy. Now I think it's like 8 p.m. Pacific time. But prep is important.
Yeah.
And Saturday night at 9 p.m. is not the time to start prepping for your lesson. So don't wing it, because fish don't bite hooks that they aren't tied properly. Kids don't grow in classes that aren't prepared properly. So we're just recommending take the time this week and every week to prepare the way you were supposed to, because it really will make a difference.
Yeah, sure will.
Now it's time for an object lesson, and this is where we come up with an object lesson. This is something new that's not already on the website that we haven't, I've never seen anywhere as far as like recorded. And I saw that this particular one up at Spokane, Washington, Brother Julian did it in one of the services, and I guess he had got it from Brother Bohannon. And so we'll make it quick, but basically the underlying thought is that you can't serve two masters. No man can serve two masters. And they represent that with two different cups. You have a full cup full of water, and an empty cup, and you have a kid come up and try to drink out of each of them. Obviously, you can get water out of the full cup. Well, you have straws, a straw in each of them. Kid comes up and can drink water out of the full cup, can't get anything out of the empty cup, which is a no-brainer. I mean, that's obvious. But then you have the kid try to drink out of both of them at the same time. So you have both straws going into their mouth at the same time, one in the full cup, one in the empty cup. And the interesting thing is they can't drink out of either one of them. Now they're sucking as hard as they can, and yet you're not going to get anything. All they're getting is the air, coming in through the empty cup, and the full one with all the water doesn't get anything. And the idea is that you're not going to ever get anything out of church if you have 1 foot in church, 1 foot out. You can't serve two masters. So I just thought that was such a clever illustration. So I'm going to record that and throw that on the website. But from physics, I mean, you probably knew that was going a million miles away. But
I don't know if I'd ever seen this, but when I read it, I thought that is such a neat little illustration, because I guarantee it, if I were to do this and figure out how to fit it in with our boys, I guarantee it, they're all gonna, if you did it one cup, then the other and stuff, say, okay, but I'll give you 2 straws, put it in both. I guarantee they're gonna think they'll be able to suck down the water. And the fact that it's
I would have known I could have.
Path of least resistance or something is probably the physics behind it, or pressure or something. But it is.
I'm just not smart enough to. That just blew my mind when I saw that. Like, how? I mean, it makes sense retroactively, I guess. Yeah. But at the time, I thought that is just the coolest thing. No man can serve two masters. Matthew 6:24. Yeah. You can try to get the best of both worlds. I've seen some people, they try to live both lives, come to church and they pray in the altars and try to get something from God. Then they go out and play the fool for the rest of the week. That only lasts so long.
Yeah.
You never.
I mean, when I saw that, like I said, I read that. That's pretty neat. I go, so when I go home today, I'm going to try with my granddaughter. Say, okay, got a test for you.
Nice. So that's the object lesson for today. All right, this is from the archives section. And this is where we go on Apostolic Sunday School, and we dig way back. And the idea is to revive some interest in maybe some of those old object lessons that still, they're really good. They're just neat object lessons, but yet they don't have the new shine, the new chrome, the new fancy wheels on them. So people kind of write them off a little bit. But this is a good one. I remember the first time I saw Henry the Teabag was at youth convention of all places. This had to be 25 years ago. And I still don't know why they did it. But at youth convention, they had a little session every day of youth convention. And one of them was Sunday school. Mm-hmm. At a youth convention. It didn't even make sense. I don't know why they did it. It was this little tiny room in a hallway. I could take you right where that room was. And they would have someone that was really good at Sunday school do a 1 hour just kind of teacher training, like a very tiny version of what we do at our workshop. It's basically one of those sessions. And they could just talk about anything Sunday school. I was still dipping my toes in Sunday school, still trying to figure it out. And I remember seeing brother and sister Bohannon. So this is Jason Bohannon's mom and dad 20 years ago, and Jason Bohanna was there too, and he was part of it. And they did this lesson about the teabag. And if you've done this before, humor me or skip this part. But you get a teabag, and you know this is a person. This is you and me, and you go through the process of cleaning them up. First of all, you have that tag on the end of the string that hangs on there because the world labels us and calls us all these things, and so God tears that off of us, and then you still have the string tying us to the world, you know, keeping us attached, and so God removes that. Then you have all the junk inside of us, all the sin, and so you get scissors and cut it open, make a clean cut so it can stand up later. That'll make sense. And then you pour out all the tea grounds, and then you straighten it up because God straightens us up and gets us all ready, and you balance it on its end. And a tea bag is really long. It's much longer than I expected it to be. When you unfold it and get it all stood up, it's probably 6-8 inches tall, maybe?
At least 6, I think, yeah.
Yeah, pretty big. And so you balance it on end. You cannot have any whiff of air or it'll blow it over. No AC, no fans. Don't breathe heavy. And so you have it on its end, and then you light it with like a barbecue lighter, and it burns down that tea bag. And right when it gets to the bottom, I'm almost where it's burning to the plate, you see the tea bag take off in the air, and it goes, I don't know, probably 10, 15 feet up, depending on how high your ceiling. It'll probably hit your ceiling in most places. And it rises to meet Jesus in the air. When you get full of the Holy Ghost, when you get set on fire, when God comes back, you rise in the rapture and meet him in the air.
Yeah.
And the tea bag takes off. It's the coolest lesson. And when I saw that, my brain broke.
Yeah.
And I've done that, God only knows how many times since.
I think, I'm not sure if it was you the first time I saw that, but I thought it was really cool. It might have been or Brother Baglin, maybe, one of his, remember when he did those seminar things here? But I think it was
that
you,
was the first time I had ever seen
cool.
it, and I'm sure I took it straight home and did it the next Sunday.
But you're probably going to say this, is make sure you practice this one, because not all tea bags were born equal, right? Everyone,
that was
it's
definitely
weird.
next.
Some just don't work for some reason.
They don't.
But,
Yeah, in fact,
that is really neat.
I found that
so
Lipton,
simple but neat.
the Lipton iced tea bags work the best. But I had one, and I gave myself time, but I went through 10 different bags before I found, not in the same set, 10 different brands.
Yeah.
Or even within the brand. So Lipton has a bunch of different tea bags, and they don't all work. But there's certain ones that do, and there's certain ones that don't. So don't you try this Saturday night. God help you.
Yeah.
You might get lucky, but you also might not.
Yeah.
And not trying it ahead of time, that's the kiss of death. Because, okay, this is funny too. Because even the good tea bags don't all rise up. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you can just get unlucky where it burns all the way down, and it's like the ash sticks to the plate, and it can't break that seal or whatever. Uh-huh. And so even a good tea bag can stick. And so you better be ready with he looked like he was ready. He was a hypocrite. He was not living for God. Look at him. He's burning, going straight. No, I'm kidding. Sorry, I shouldn't have went there.
And you mentioned that you saw this, 25 years ago, Henry the Teabag. You can probably make a Tyler the Teabag or Jordan the Teabag, update the name, because there's no Henrys around anymore. So.
No, in fact, I called it Henry back then. I don't think they had a name on
they
it.
haven't changed. It's been, ever since I've known, it's been Henry the Teabag.
Yep.
It's funny how things stick with you.
It's so funny. But that's a good, very good lesson. It's on Apostolic Sunday School. Just look up Henry the Teabag and you'll find it. Mm-hmm. Yep, a good one. Shake the dust off and do it again. So this is the last part of this podcast. And who knows where this is going to end up. But I've kind of called it, don't lose what made it great. Or don't lose what got you there in the first place. And I don't even know how to start this. I'm just going to kind of read some notes, and then we'll jump off, and wherever we feel like it, Brother Lee, jump in whenever.
Sure.
But there's different places. I'm thinking specifically of restaurants when I say this, that something's really good. Like, not just kind of good, but super, super special good, where people just go nuts over it, and they tell their friends about it, and everybody starts going to this place for this one dish. It's just like the place to go. And after a while, that restaurant, we'll call it, we're talking about a restaurant in this scenario, they become so popular that they realize, hey, this is caught on. Why don't we reproduce this thing? So we'll open up a second one, or we'll get another cook. And so we'll have 2 cooks cooking the same incredible thing that got people excited, or we'll cook and do another restaurant, 10 restaurants, 20 restaurants, maybe a chain, and they start distributing. But the problem is sometimes they lose the specialness of the dish, because once it gets reproduced, sometimes it's not as good. And when it goes to a chain, sometimes it loses that home, mama made it in the kitchen sort of flair to it. So people love it, but over time, if you're not careful, that special dish, the little bit extra, whatever made it special to begin with, once it becomes mass produced, it loses what made it special to begin with. The soul has gone out of it. I guess. I don't know how else to put it. It becomes routine rather than something that someone slaved over and sweated over and loved, put that love into it. And now it's just another dish churned out by a bunch of different people.
Well, you mentioned Olive Garden, and there was a dish.
I haven't yet. It's in the notes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm reading ahead here, so I'll let you go to that. I want to jump to another restaurant, Bubba Gump Shrimp. I'm a creature of habit, and I ordered. I remember one year I was up in the Bay Area at a restaurant. I don't think they're even open anymore, but I got a jambalaya, and that meal was so good. I remember I literally got sad when I got to the bottom of the bowl. I am not kidding. You can ask my wife. And then everywhere I went, if I saw that on the menu, I would buy it. And it was never ever as good as that one. So I'm going to come back. But then I find Bubba Gump Shrimp. There's a plug for Bubba Gump Shrimp. I love their jambalaya. This is years ago, and so I've ate it. And the thing about some restaurants and stuff, they try to make it no matter. I work for a company that supplied McDonald's, and they said, hey, in Southern California, if you eat a Big Mac, I want it to taste the same as upstate New York. So they would make sure the suppliers and everything was all the same, and the consistency, whatever. I remember didn't
McDonald's even store their potatoes at certain temperatures and the same type of boxes, and to try to reproduce that flavor? Yeah,
there was certain they'd have certain protocols and operating procedures where everybody had to follow that, and they had what they called a consensus thing where we're really diving down deep into this.
We haven't touched on children's ministry, but we're getting there. We're getting there one of these days.
So they do a thing. It was kind of interesting where people would submit a sample of a recent production, and you'd go around the room and you'd taste it to make sure it matched the gold sample, and everything had to make. You may be able to make something better, or at least in your own opinion. That didn't matter. It had to taste like their gold star sample, and that was the goal. You had to match the standard. And so it was kind of neat, and
that's interesting. It can't be better.
You couldn't, yeah.
Now, I don't know if that applies to children's ministry. We'll get there.
We're going to get there, right? But anyway, go back to Bubba Gump Shrimp. So I'd eat jambalaya everywhere, and I loved it. Well, one day we're down. I think my wife, we were somewhere, one of them, and I ordered it again. And it just didn't quite taste the same. Looked the same, and it's just so I asked the waiter, "Hey, did you guys do something?" I was a connoisseur of it. I knew what it was supposed to taste like, and I tried it. It just wasn't quite the same. Yeah, well, we changed. They did something, and they got a new supplier or something. I was nice. I said, well, you know what? I like the old recipe better. You can tell your chef that or something. And I was nice about it. I mean, it was still good. And the next time I went, I got it. Yeah, it's the same one as that one, but it wasn't quite as good as the original. And but I think in obviously we're talking about restaurants. We're not going to start a restaurant here, I don't think. But anyway, I think
real quick. That story reminds me of something that's not in the notes.
Okay.
I love Ritz crackers.
Yeah.
A good Ritz cracker is probably one of my favorite snacks in the world. But they've changed.
Oh, yeah.
They are not the same.
I used to love Ritz. Nothing sits better when it sits on a Ritz.
I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
Is that their jingle?
That was like 50 year ago jingle.
Oh,
yes.
my word.
Well, those Ritz were good.
I'm telling you, they're so... I could eat a whole sleeve without thinking twice. I mean, I love Ritz. And one day, I got them from the store, And I was like, this is not the Ritz I know. There's something wrong. There's something missing. And I thought, well, that's just that one Ritz. I'll try another one. Then I tried another pack, and I was like, man, I am not enjoying these. Like, they were just any other cracker. Just meh. I didn't care. I went online, and I started doing a little bit of research. Like, did something change? And sure enough, to try to meet some goofy eco thing, they wanted to change their type of oil to something better.
Oh, boy.
It changed the taste. They were so gross.
Yeah.
But every now and then, and this only happened for a little bit, I would luck into a pack that must have came from a previous batch. I could tell you immediately, that's the old one.
That's the old
one. Oh man, that box had no chance. But I don't even like them anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just, I'll eat them with something on it, but it just changed. And I was sad.
I think obviously, I guess you get different management, turns corporate, then they're looking to mass produce or something, and then it just like you said, it spoils the original intimacy or something of something, and it definitely can lose it when you lose that. And it's funny. I mentioned to you, I talked to a buddy of mine today that I grew up with, and he's gone through a lot of significant changes in his life here recently, and all good. And we were talking, but he said his sons, he started a business with them as he was getting ready to retire. And he said he had some big business wanting to buy him out, and it was very lucrative and whatever. But the kids said, their hearts were in it. And small company up in Northern California, they've expanded. They got one down to Bakersfield now, I guess, a branch. But they just didn't want to let it go because they knew, because he told me why he left the other company to start his own was because it just wasn't that family. It used to be a family business where they'd make decisions right there. And he was telling me today, he said, yeah, we deal with guys. We're out there in a field on a guy on a tractor making decisions, not no corporate American, whatever. And he'll say, yeah, I'll buy that right now. And you're making deals right there. And
wow.
But big corporate, you can't do that. I was telling him about a big company I work for, is just to become a vendor, you got to go through so many hoops, and there's all this stuff you got to go through, and it just kind of takes the joy away. You know? I don't know.
Well, you mentioned Olive Garden, and so we got to go there.
Got to go there. Okay.
So when Olive Garden first started, it had this.
So you're gonna have to splice and cut. First time you edit, you're gonna cut, splice, and put all this stuff back.
This is a mostly unedited podcast. No, we definitely do some edits, but not as much as maybe we should. But when Olive Garden started, it had this maybe not authentic Italian kitchen feel to it, but it was more than a chain. Like it was a really good Italian place, and people really loved the pasta. My wife loves Olive Garden. They just had like these real unique recipes, and of course their breadsticks were the infinite. Was it salad and breadsticks? Endless bowl. It was just a real special deal. But it expanded, and it got bigger and bigger into a massive chain with hundreds of locations, and somehow the charm was lost.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just a me thing. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being unfair to poor Olive Garden. But it feels like that what made them special got lost in their expansion.
Yeah.
And the dishes, instead of being... they were never really authentic Italian, but they were solid. It became more standardized, and the ingredients were pre-prepped for bulk. Now you know more about this than I do. This is kind of your bread and butter.
There you go. Good one.
That was not intentional. But the whole thing felt more mass-produced, and it was still good, but not special.
Okay, not to beat up on Olive Garden, but I remember the first time I went to one, and I just started working at Nestle, and the resource water manager took us to lunch, and we went to the Olive Garden there in Ontario Mills, and that was the first time I'd ever went to one. So this was 19 years ago. And I thought, man, this is great. I remember I was so excited. Took my wife there, and for many years in a row, that Olive Garden was the number one family restaurant chosen. It was like, and they're not anymore. So I just read an article. Somebody can fact check me here because I want to make sure I'm right. But I read something and there was a big deal. This article saying it had been Olive Garden for so many years, but they're not anymore. So they've lost the appeal, like you said. Interesting.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about that before. But I want to contrast that chain restaurant losing its charm with one person that makes their whole life work, maybe one dish or one one kitchen at least, and they don't lose the magic by doing it so many times. They refine it. They become so good at it where everything is completely perfect. Like every step of the process is absolutely perfect. And this person is more than a cook. They're an artist. They're a craftsman, and every dish is homemade and perfect because they've done it so much where it's an art, as opposed to let's mass produce this thing as much times as we can. And so that's the line that we walk in Sunday school. And that's the whole purpose of us talking about food for the last 15 minutes is what are we trying to accomplish in Sunday school? We've taught, Brother Lee, hundreds of lessons between us. There's no telling how many we've taught. How many years have you taught now?
Well, we were asked to do Sunday school, my wife and I, and it's funny, I'm in the classroom right now that I took the boys over, and that was in 1998, I believe. So
27 years.
Yeah.
I think I started when I was 21, 22. I'm 46 now, so it's 25 years. Yeah. So that's a lot of lessons, a lot of games, a lot of memory verses. And if we're not careful, we can fall into the mass production mindset where we're just kind of cranking these things out. Let's just get these done. Let's not put the thought and the effort that we used to put into them when we first started this thing. I mean, I was obsessed, Brother Lee, watching you and all your cool science stuff. That's all I could think about. Like, what can we do next week to make it next level? How can we ratchet this up for the kids? How can we make it super neat and super special? Instead of, and we're not there, I pray, I hope to God we're not, instead of just checking a box, okay, object lesson, done, check, where the creativity is not nearly what it used to be. That custom craftsmanship, the artistry is gone. I don't want to ever have microwave Sunday school.
Yeah. Well, you know, we briefly talked about it before we started recording here today, was the seminar. It kind of inspired me, and one of the things, I didn't write this down in my mind. I wrote something else down, but I thought, because we kind of at the end of the thing, you gave us a piece of paper to write something down you're going to do, and so I got something else down. But there was other things I said I want to do this too. I just kind of made a mental note to do it, and one of them was coming up with some different object lessons. I haven't really done anything really different. I think there's some old classics like Henry, great one, and there's some ones that just are tried and true, and they work so good because we got
your steel wool one. That was the first one we ever recorded.
Yeah, and we got a new group of kids coming up, so it may be old to us, but it's brand new to them, and it's still cool. But I thought of I got a couple in the works I'm working on that I don't know if they'll be as explosive or something like that, but I definitely think they're going to be memorable, and I think kids will get something out of them. So, but just trying
I have a whole list of stuff I've got to record, stuff I've never even done live in Sunday school before. Yeah. Okay. And maybe we don't churn out 16 in a day like we used to, but can we do 2 or 3 and make them really good? Yeah. And I'd love to start releasing one of those a week for teachers, one object lesson a week for teachers. But back to that, I don't want to get into the going from when we started where we cared so much and did put so much thought and effort into every single lesson. We didn't have a curriculum to start with. We didn't have all this stuff. And now we are, for the sake of meeting the analogy, we're a chain restaurant, meaning that we have a bunch of teachers doing this. It's not just the 2 of us anymore. Not that it ever was. There was a few more, but we're much bigger, and so I don't want to ever lose that spark that made this thing special to begin with. Yeah. Well,
I that thought, and I hope this comes across okay, is I think the curriculum's awesome and everything like that, but part of me, in a way, and I like the fact that we emphasize this at our teacher meeting every Sunday, is if there's something new or something different you want to do, or I think we're giving everybody the latitude that if just like me going and not talking to somebody, it's, and you got something good. If God's speaking to you to do something like that, you probably need to go with what you're feeling, and you can divert and deviate from the curriculum a little bit, because I don't think we want to lose our creativity and stuff like that.
Absolutely
the book
not.
is great. Now, again, not saying wait till Sunday morning to read it or whatever, but it's there, and I think it's great for people. And I think one of the things that's great for that is it's so diverse. There's so many different things going on, and it's not somebody talking for 45 minutes to a kid and lecturing them or teaching them a lesson or something. Just, there's so much stuff there that I think you have the luxury of diverting and deviating a little bit, but it's something that it's a core, and you can build off it and tweak it. That I think especially for a limited resourced Sunday school, it's definitely something great that they, because I think it'll take the fear away. And if we get a chance, I want to talk about a class that I had years ago when I was kind of thinking back in my Berkeley days. But I think it's something that it helps people to get over that fear. Like, look, you don't have to, because let's say you're nervous, you don't think you can do it. It's like, well, you got something. Just follow the script. It's so well laid out, so it's perfect for that. But I think people need to make sure that they can still kind of, and don't lose that creed. Don't just rely on that. Use your gut, your instincts, and what's in you.
Absolutely. The curriculum, like Brother Lee already referred to, we tell our teachers it's a foundation, it's a starting point, it's a good baseline. It keeps all the classes on the same page. We have a topic, we have themes that have been well thought out. But still, if you feel something that teaches the same topic, we don't want you going left field and teaching a totally different topic when we're supposed to be teaching about one God, and you just feel to go talk about compassion. I mean, that's great, but maybe, let's talk ahead of time.
Even though that one God is compassionate.
That's right. But we want, with that said, we want the ability to still do your own object lessons, come up with your own stuff and implement it in. In fact, this last Sunday, every song we did was not in the curriculum, not one of them. Yeah. I think that's great. Yeah. Our teachers came up with the ones that Brother Hodge did. I mean, it was just so perfect for Daniel. No fear and unashamed. It's just so, it fit like a glove. It was better than what was in the curriculum, because those songs, we didn't even know about them when we wrote the curriculum.
Right, exactly.
But that leads us to one more thing. If you do something really neat and special on a lesson, try not to keep it within your own local church where nobody knows about it but you. If you have a really good idea, Brother Lee, say for the final lesson last Sunday, you changed it up radically and you came up with a way better fit, much better object lesson, tell us about it. Not you specifically, but anybody listening to this. There's a feedback form in the curriculum. This is what it's for. Is to say, hey, we had a better idea. This was what we did, and we'll include it in the curriculum. We have changed that curriculum 100 times probably. Yeah. With stuff that people have told us about. But if we don't know, we can't do it. Yeah. So you gotta let us know. So our kids don't need mass-produced Sunday school. They don't need processed McDonald's McDonald's Sunday school. They want handmade, lovingly crafted lessons that really are fresh. Even if we've taught it before, we can still put the same amount of creativity and passion into it. Yeah, exactly. So teach with the same love as when you started. We got to go back 27 years for you, and 25 for me, and kind of put ourselves back in that mindset of how did we feel back then? What was the excitement? I remember being so pumped. Like, I can't wait. I had the coolest idea. Yeah. I'm so excited. But we can't ever let it get stale.
Mm-hmm. We need to be excited. You
gotta make your class special. Make it with care. Make it with, is the buzzword, intention. Yeah. You gotta be intentional about how you go about your preparation, and then it won't lose its flavor. If you do it right. Anyway, Brother Lee, thank you so much for joining us, and I can't wait to make this a regular thing.
I'm excited.
All right. God bless y'all. We'll see you next time. And we want to make it clear that we are not experts on children's ministry. We are just excited about it. We love what we do, and hopefully we are passionate about it. And we learn more than everybody else during these podcasts. And if you guys pick up something along the way, that's great. But
Awesome.
all right. God bless y'all. We'll see you next time.